There is a specific kind of silence that follows total financial collapse. Not the peaceful kind. The kind where you sit in a room that used to feel like yours, and everything looks the same but nothing feels the same anymore. The bills are still on the counter, the phone is still buzzing. But something inside you has gone completely quiet, like a switch got flipped, and you genuinely do not know if you will ever figure out how to flip it back. If you know that silence, then this video is for you. I am not going to waste your time with theory or motivational fluff. I rebuilt revenue from absolute zero, and I want to show you exactly how that happened, step by step, because the method is simpler than anything you have ever been taught, and the people who figure this out change their lives permanently. Before I go any further, I want to tell you something. There is a program linked in the description of this video. I am not going to spend the next 10 minutes pitching it to you, because honestly, most people who click away from videos like this do so because they feel like they are being sold to before they have received anything real. So I am going to give you real first. But I will say this once, and I mean it. The people who need this program most are usually the ones who talk themselves out of it fastest. Keep that in mind as we go through this together. Now let me take you back to the moment everything broke. There is a specific morning that lives in my memory like a photograph I never wanted to take. I remember opening my bank account and seeing a number so low it did not even feel real. It felt like a joke, like a test, like surely there had been some mistake. There was no mistake. The revenue that had been coming in, the clients, the income, the momentum I had spent years building, all of it had evaporated. Not slowly, suddenly. The way a fire goes out when you pour water on it. One moment it was there, the next moment it was just smoke. And the worst part was not the number in the account. The worst part was the story I started telling myself the moment I saw it. You know the story. You have probably told yourself a version of it. It goes something like this. Maybe I am just not built for this. Maybe other people have something I do not have. Maybe this is just proof that I was fooling myself the whole time. That story is a lie. But it is a very convincing lie when you are sitting in that silence. Here is what nobody tells you about financial collapse. It is not just a money problem. Money is actually the smallest part of it. What collapse really destroys is your sense of identity. When the revenue disappears, your confidence disappears with it. Your ability to think clearly disappears. Your ability to make decisions disappears. You start second-guessing everything. You start avoiding the exact actions that would actually help you, because those actions feel too risky when you are already on the floor. I spent weeks in that loop, making tiny moves, pulling back, overthinking, going in circles. Every day that passed felt like another day of proof that maybe I really was done. The mental cost of that period was enormous. I was not sleeping well. I was not eating well. I was carrying the weight of failure in every conversation, in every quiet moment, in every morning when I woke up and immediately remembered what my situation was. And here is the thing about that period that I now recognize clearly. The pain was not just emotional. It was financial pain that was compounding daily. Every day I stayed paralyzed. I was losing more than money. I was losing time. And time, when you are in financial recovery, is the most expensive thing you can waste. The average person who hits financial collapse spends somewhere between 3 months and 2 years spinning before they find a real path forward. 3 months to 2 years of stress, of strained relationships, of missed opportunities, of that sinking feeling every single morning. I know people who spent longer than that. I know people who never fully came back, not because they were not capable, but because nobody ever showed them the actual framework for rebuilding. And I want to be honest with you right now. The reason I am making this video is not because I think you need to be inspired. I think you need a map. Here is what the map looked like for me. The first thing I did, and this sounds almost too simple, was stop trying to rebuild everything at once. When you have lost revenue, your instinct is to chase everything simultaneously. You want to fix the product, fix the marketing, fix the outreach, fix the systems all at the same time. That instinct is wrong. It fragments your energy. It creates the illusion of movement with almost zero actual progress. What I did instead was identify the single fastest path back to $1. Not $100,000. Not a month of revenue. $1. Because the psychological shift that happens when money starts moving again, even a small amount, is completely disproportionate to the size of the amount. It breaks the paralysis. It proves to your brain that the game is not over. I went back to the most basic version of what I knew how to do. I stripped away everything complicated. I looked at what had worked before, even in a small way, and I rebuilt from that single point. Within 2 weeks of doing this, I had my first dollar of new revenue. It was not impressive, but it was real. And real matters more than impressive when you are rebuilding. The second shift was understanding the difference between activity and traction. When you are in panic mode, you fill your days with activity because activity feels like progress. Sending emails, making calls, updating things, tweaking things. But activity without a clear system is just motion. It does not compound. It does not build. Traction is different. Traction is when one action leads to another action, which leads to a result, which leads to a bigger result. It is a chain reaction instead of a random collection of efforts. Learning to identify what creates traction versus what just creates the feeling of effort was one of the most valuable lessons I have ever learned. Within 60 days of making this shift, my revenue had moved from zero to a number that allowed me to breathe again. Not comfortable, but breathing. And breathing is everything when you have been underwater. Within 90 days, I had rebuilt to a point where I was no longer in survival mode. I was in growth mode. The difference between those two modes is not just financial, it is physical. It is the way you sleep, the way you show up in conversations, the way you see opportunities that were invisible when you were just trying to survive. Within 6 months, I had surpassed my previous revenue. Not by a little, by a margin that would have seemed completely impossible on the morning I sat looking at that number in my account. Now I want to talk to you about something important, because I know what you might be thinking right now. You might be thinking that this sounds great, but your situation is different. That there are specific reasons why this would not work for you. I have heard every version of that thought from people in almost every situation imaginable, and I will tell you what I tell them. The people who have used this exact rebuilding framework are not special. They did not have advantages that you do not have. Many of them were further gone than you are right now. Many of them had tried other approaches for months or years without results. The framework does not work because of who you are when you start. It works because of the structure itself. I have seen people use this approach who had lost everything in a business failure. People who had been fired. People who had a product collapse. People who had their entire client base disappear overnight. People who had been told by everyone around them that it was time to quit and do something safer. Every single person who committed to the process and did not give up partway through came out the other side. The ones who did not make it were the ones who stopped before the traction kicked in. That is the brutal truth. The method works. Quitting does not. There is something I want you to feel right now, not just understand. The cost of staying stuck is not neutral. Every single day you spend without a system, without a clear path, without the right support, is a day you pay for in ways that go far beyond money. You pay in stress. You pay in relationships. You pay in the version of yourself that you slowly stop believing in. That is a cost no one talks about. But it is real, and it adds up faster than any debt. The people who invest in getting the right framework and the right support do not just save money. They save time. They save months, sometimes years of spinning without direction. They save the version of themselves that believes things can change. That investment pays back in ways that compound for years. If you are watching this and you know that you are in this place, that your revenue has collapsed or is collapsing, that you are spinning without traction, that you are exhausted from trying things that do not add up to real results, I want you to look at the description of this video. There is a program linked there. I am not going to dress this up with pressure tactics. I'm just going to say this as plainly as I can. The people who decide to look into this today and actually take action today are the ones who change the trajectory of the next 6 months of their life. The people who say they will come back to it later are the ones who find themselves in the same place months from now, watching a different video, still waiting for something to shift. You already know what staying stuck feels like. You have been living it. The question is not whether you are ready for something to change. You are reading this because you are ready. The question is whether you will act on that readiness or let it pass. The link is in the description. That is where the next step lives. Take it today.